Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Rockland Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, January 21st, 2020. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. To be led tonight by one of our fourth graders, Memorial Park, Grace O'Laughlin. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be advised that this open meeting is being broadcast live and recorded by WRPS for playback on Comcast Channel 14 and Verizon Channel 31. It will also be available for online video on-demand viewing at WRPSRockland.com within 24 hours of its conclusion, as are other recently recorded meeting and community events. Please go to WRPSRockland.com for further information. So we got a pretty full agenda tonight and obviously a pretty full room up here as well. We apologize for the lack of seating, but we'll try to move some things along. First up on the agenda, under community announcements, is Police Department promotions. Chief Llewellyn.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the Board of Selectmen for allowing us to be up here tonight, and Town Administrator Mr. Lapp. As you can see, the room is packed with friends, family members, and police officers, and unfortunately, the hallway is also packed with some more police officers from the Town of Rockland, other communities, because these two men that we're promoting tonight, one of them is on the Metrolex SWAT team. There are a number of SWAT officers out there. And one of our officers is also a K-9 officer, and I know there are a number of K-9 officers out there, and probably a dog or two also. So, unfortunately, we couldn't get them all in here tonight.
Well, I think it's safe to say we've never felt more safe than this moment.
Myself included.
Yeah.
So, we've sort of turned a corner here in Rockland, and this is our first ever assessment center that's ever been held to actually assess the skills and abilities of the people that we're promoting. As you may know, we're an old-fashioned civil service community. Officers would pay a fee, go to a school somewhere in Boston or down in Fall River, in a classroom environment, take a test. Scores would come out 6 to 9 months later. Maybe a year after that, we could then make a promotion. I want to say that the Board of Selectmen was great this year in negotiating with both of our police unions. We now have the assessment center program in place pursuant to their employment contracts, so we're able to move forward. Now, the assessment center is certainly no easy task. They had to be at the station at 6:30 in the morning. It was an all-day affair. They had 8 different stations that they had to go to. It was administered by an outside agency, one of which they would walk in and there would be a disgruntled employee there. And these candidates had to sit with the disgruntled employee, figure out how to best get in their head, how to fix them, and how to make them work for the Town of Rockland or the police department. Then they were put into another scenario, a high-speed chase scenario. You need answers. I need answers right away. We need to have these answers quickly to see how they would react on their feet. They had to do a couple of written exercises. So it not only tested their ability to sit and take a written test, it tested their ability to think on their feet, to lead officers in a dangerous and ever-changing situation. So I would be remiss right off the bat if I didn't thank all 9 officers that participated in this. Unfortunately, we only had 2 openings at this time. We went with top candidates 1 and 2. The other officers all did a tremendous job. I got a written evaluation from the company that came in and did it, and they really did talk a lot about how Rockland is extremely fortunate to have the caliber and quality of police officers that we have. So I want to thank them right out of the gate. So how this is going to go, it's going to go kind of quickly. I'm going to introduce the 2 officers to you individually. Just give you a quick background on them, how they got to be where they are today. I'm then going to ask their loved one to come up, pin their sergeant's badge on them, give an opportunity to take a few pictures. Christine McGinnis is here. She's our department photographer. And then we'll bring in the second officer to do that, and then we'll clear the room out for you, okay? So first of all, I'd like to ask Rick Novio to come on up. Both of these officers have been on the job for quite a while now, so you probably know who they are and familiar faces in town. So Rick Novio lives in Rockland with his wife, Noelle, and 3 children. He started with Rockland PD back in 1999 as a permanent intermittent police officer and became full-time in 2001. Prior to Rockland Police Department, Rick was a court officer, and he spent 3 years of that time as the acting chief court officer, I believe in Quincy, correct? He was also an auxiliary police officer for the town of Braintree, became an auxiliary officer in Rockland in 1998, and he also spent time as a seasonal police officer in Cohasset. So you can see his whole life goal has been moving towards becoming a full-time officer in Rockland and to where we are today. Rick has a Bachelor of Arts degree in criminal justice from Norwich University in Vermont. Since joining Rockland Police Department full-time, he's become a taser instructor for the department, a use of force instructor. He's also been a member of the Metro-elect SWAT team for 16 years, and he's now one of the officers that actually works up the operation plan when they have to go in and, obviously SWAT team's a very dangerous situation. So, Rick was appointed acting sergeant in 2017. I just want you to take a second and think about the acting sergeant position and the additional stress that added to Rick, because we put stripes on him, and now he had to go forward and take the assessment center and hopefully top it and do well. And to his credit, Rick topped the assessment center. So I'm extremely proud to present to you tonight Sergeant Rick Novio, and I would ask his loved one to come up and pin his badge. She's been waiting to do that. Yeah. There you go. Congratulations, Sergeant.
Congratulations.
Well done, Rick. Thank you. I'd asked Steve Summers to come on up. She's got quite the outpouring of family support here tonight with retired prosecutor and officer for many years, Rick Summers, who I happened to go to the academy with a long time ago. So Steve lives in Rockland with his fiancee, Heather. Steve started with Rockland PD in 2001 as a permanent intermittent officer. Became full-time 3 years later in 2004. Prior to working in Rockland, Steve was an auxiliary officer in Abington from 1999 to 2001. Right after 9/11, Steve worked security team for the Prudential Center in Boston. Steve has quite a education background. He has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Westfield State, a master's degree in criminal justice administration from Western New England College, and also a law degree from Massachusetts School of Law, and he's admitted to practice in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Not long after starting full-time, Steve went to then Chief Donovan and proposed that we reinstate the K-9 program. Now, those of you know that Chief Donovan, he was not an easy man to convince of things, but Steve, with his persistence, was able to convince Chief Donovan and reinstate the K-9 program. It wasn't long after that that Steve attended the K-9 Academy with K-9 Boyer. Of course, for Steve, one dog wasn't enough, so he had to convince me at the time that he needed a second dog to do the drug song. So it wasn't long after that that Steve reattended the academy with K-9 Jessica. And he used to drive around town in what we would often call the clown car, because you couldn't hear Steve with two dogs barking in the back seat. So Steve spent many years patrolling Rockland with two dogs. He has since picked up his third dog, Teo, and is currently patrolling the streets of Rockland with Teo. Steve exemplifies a commitment to the job, the town of Rockland. You think about the hours on the job and off the job it takes to train these dogs and to spend time with them at home. So he's completely committed to this. You know, I went through Steve's personnel folder to get dates and his education and all of that stuff. And I'll be honest with you, it took me a while because there were so many letters of thanks and commendation from other communities where he's gone and done drug searches for the schools, assisted in tracking other communities for suspects, and also from the Department of Corrections. So I'm very pleased to present to you tonight Sergeant Steve Summers. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Hey, you want to put Sarge in charge?
Guys, chat. Just get them all out.
Joe's going to be coming back up. Don't worry, it's fine. It's good.
Okay, moving along. Next on the agenda, Memorial Park School Kindness Day, February 14th, 2020. Jan?
Grab that chair right there and just pull that right up.
Yeah, you can sit.
Maybe this was a wrong idea. Should I? All right, look. Thank you. Great, thank you. Thanks, Rich.
Sorry for the delay in that, Jen. I thought it might be a nice opportunity for the kids to see something a little bit different with the police officers.
Yeah,
with the
absolutely.
promotion,
It's
so
wonderful. Thank
we
you.
moved them on the agenda.
No, thank you. Thank you for having us. So I'm Jan Sheehan, the principal of Memorial Park School. And last year, at the beginning of our school year, we started a kindness initiative. So our students came back to school and learned that besides being safe, respectful, and responsible, we also need to be kind. So we incorporated kindness into everything we did last school year. And we went out into the community and shared our kindness initiative and visited different places in town. So the kids this year, we have fourth grade student leaders for the first time. And they are taking this initiative and running with it. And they are celebrating kindness at our school assemblies and showing leadership in this area. So this year, we would like to actually spread it out to the communities, to the other schools, to the businesses in town. We're going to send letters, if approved, to the other businesses in town and provide them with kindness cards and see if they will pay it forward. And maybe a restaurant will share an appetizer with a random customer or a dessert or something like that. So we're looking for ways that our community can come together on one special day and promote kindness. So I don't want to say too much because the kids have a lot to tell you. So we have the kids coming up. So Thomas, we'll start with you. All right? Say your line.
Kindness matters.
Chloe?
No matter how old or young we are, we can all work on being kind every day. To help everyone remember this, we are proposing a hashtag Kindness Rockland 2020.
National Kindness Day is February 17th, 2020, but we thought Valentine's Day would be an ideal day for our residents to be kind to one another.
Our hope is to make others more aware of their behavior and appreciate random acts of kindness they can do for others. If this day is approved, we will be handing these hearts around town to promote the Kindness Day and give everyone some ideas about how to be kind. We are also writing a song about kindness to spread the word as well. As a school, we'll be painting kindness rocks on Kindness Day to then spread around town as a lasting reminder that the impact of being kind can make. We hope you will approve our request for Rockland Kindness Day 2020.
So they have quite a marketing campaign going on, I have to tell you. And we are going to reach out, if approved, to Dave Cable Murphy to see if we can promote their video on the radio station as well as on the cable TV. So the kids are going to show you our kindness cards. And we also came up with 50 different ways that our residents can be kind.
Thank you very much.
On February 14th.
So that was well played, having Grace begging for us.
Absolutely. She was a ringer
I
for
got
us.
that, yeah, she told me that this afternoon, that she'd be up last, so, all right. So how do I say no to that?
Right.
So I guess I might have to abstain, right? So it's up to the rest of the board, I guess. I'll entertain a motion to approve Kindness Day for February 14th, 2020.
I will make that motion.
Second it.
I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in
Good
favor?
idea. Thank you, everyone.
Great idea.
Thank you very much.
So I think along with that, I think, Doug, if we can get this up on the town website and on Twitter and on Facebook and promote the heck out of it through town.
Hashtag Rockland.
Hashtag Rockland.
Well, Kindness
Kindness, hashtag
Rockland
Rockland,
2020.
So
Absolutely.
if you tell Ellen DeGeneres that you're having Kindness Day and be kind, she might invite you all to the show.
Well, it's funny that someone actually took our kindness initiative and tweeted her one day, one of the things that we did, but we didn't hear from her, so maybe we'll hear from
Maybe you
her.
do it
after
again.
this.
You never know, you know?
Well, I'm sure after she watches this tape, then, yeah.
Of course.
Absolutely. There you go. If you send something in like that, she'll love it.
All right, sounds
That'd be great.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and Nice gentlemen. job.
Sorry, Wayne.
That was great.
I'll bring this home and give it to my wife and said, I let you live.
Wayne, by the time you're up, you're not going to have an audience.
I agree.
Wayne, we should have had everyone sign in, though. That would have looked awesome.
So I'm going to skip over the minutes for right now to allow Wayne to come up for the 7:15 public hearing that we're slightly behind schedule on.
Make a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
A motion is second. All those in favor, roll call vote, please. Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Ms. Nyman?
Yes.
Mr. Penny?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan? And myself. Yes.
Wayne Dara, Community Opportunities Group, the town's CDBG consultant. Pleased to be here tonight because we're talking about doing another grant application for the town of Rockland. As you know, we've got a relatively successful history of obtaining these grants. The Department of Housing and Community Development is the state agency that oversees the CDBG program. They've informed us that they have about $15.3 million in funding available this year. It's roughly the same amount they had last year. There have been some changes in the CDBG program over the years. One of them has to do with the way they score the applications. In the past, towns had a community-wide need score, which was a scale of 35 that you were ranked on. DHCD has gotten rid of that, and they've simplified it down to a 10-point scale based on the percentage of low and moderate income residents you have. For better or for worse, on that scale, Rockland scores 9 out of 10. They've estimated your LMI percentage to be 43%, which that helps you be competitive because those 9 points are part of the score for each activity packet we get. So while we won't be able to get a perfect score, we can obtain a nearly perfect score if we do a good job on our end. The CDBG program is very, very flexible. It can be used for a lot of things. It can be used for brick and mortar improvements such as public facilities or infrastructure. We've done commercial rehab projects with this money. We've done housing rehab projects with this money. It can also be used for social services, planning, and some other eligible activities. However, just because an activity is eligible doesn't mean it's fundable. There are other requirements that need to be considered. Most specifically, does it meet a national objective? There are 3 national objectives under the CDBG program. Assistance to low and moderate income individuals, prevention or elimination of slums and blight, and urgent need. Most activities are done to meet that first national objective, assistance to low and moderate income individuals, and those are the type of activities we'll be proposing tonight. In addition to meeting a national objective, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts requires that any activities pursued with these grant funds also meet the sustainable development principles of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And again, what we're talking about proposing tonight, we'll do that because we're talking about rehabbing existing facilities, and that's one of their
I'll leave that open.
sustainable goals.
Can you leave that open? Oh, you want it open? Yeah, it has to
Yeah,
be
it has to
open.
be open meeting, yeah.
No, it just,
There's enough people.
there you go.
Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. I need to review our current grant. As part of our grant agreement, we have to have 2 public hearings during the life of a grant, so this will serve as the second public hearing for the town's FY18 grant. Rockland received $745,000 under an FY18 grant. That was to do housing rehab for 22 units. To date, we've completed 11 units. We have another 2 under construction, and then another 11 that are somewhere in the pipeline of the qualification process. So we're moving right along there. That grant is currently scheduled to end June of 2020. The posting for this meeting proposed 2 activities under this FY 2020 application. That would be to continue the housing rehab program and to fund a modernization project at the Studley Court Housing Authority property. Regarding the housing rehab program, in addition to the applications I just mentioned that are currently being processed, we have another 30 applications on the waiting list, which is more funding than we could obtain under this grant, even if we did nothing but housing rehab. So we'll be able to meet some of that need, but not all of it. In addition, the Studley Court development still has the windows that were originally in it when it was built in the 1960s. They're not weather tight. A lot of them don't operate or are difficult to operate for the residents who live there. They also result in elevated heating costs in the winter and cooling costs in the summer. It's a relatively straightforward project. There's nothing structural about it. It's just getting rid of the existing windows and putting in new, more efficient windows that will make life there better for the folks who are residents. I'm proposing a budget of $800,000 for these 2 activities and the administration that is associated with them. That's the maximum that a single community can ask for underneath the CDBG program with Massachusetts. There are also administrative limits that this budget also meets, so it'll be reviewed favorably by DHCD. In addition to the grant funds that we are asking for, DHCD has instituted a new program income requirement. In the past, they used to let you just accumulate program income and then use it as you saw fit. 2 years ago, they changed that, and they now require that you report to them how much program income you have, and you tell them how you're going to add it to your application should it be funded. We did this in FY18. The town had $100,000 of program income on hand. So our program income plan for the FY18 grant was we're going to add $82,000 to construction for housing rehab and $18,000 to admin for housing rehab. We find ourselves in almost the exact same position this year. We have just over $100,000. We do have to return 2% to the state. That's one requirement. So we'll have just under about $98,000 left. So I'm suggesting that in the program income plan, we put another extra $82,000 into the housing rehab program because we have more demand there than we can meet, and then use the rest for administration to do those extra units. Any questions about program income?
Yeah, specifically, well, not necessarily the income, but you said that you're looking to, one, ask to continue the housing rehab program in Rockland, and you're looking also for the funding of Studley Court rehabilitation project? Is that what it was?
Just to do the windows at Studley Court, in the residential units only, not the central offices, just the 44 residential units. They each have a 3-window
Yeah.
unit in the front and the rear.
Okay.
We would be proposing to replace all of those. And one aspect of that is the install in each unit can be done in less than a day, so we don't have to worry about relocating people over any sort of period of time. They will have to be out of the unit for a few hours during the course of the day. We can accommodate that much more easily than having to worry about putting them up in a hotel or something like that if we had a more complicated project.
Any questions?
No, this makes perfect sense, Wayne.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call. Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Ms. Nyman?
Yes.
Mr. Penny?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
And myself. Public hearing is now closed. And I would entertain a motion to continue the housing rehab program.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion. Do I
I'll
have a
second it.
And a second. All those in favor? And a second motion to authorize the funding of a Studley Court rehabilitation project of windows and doors.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Thanks,
Could I
Wayne.
get,
You want another motion?
I do.
Okay.
Authorization to submit a FY 2020 CDBG application of up to $800,000 to pursue those two activities.
So moved.
So what he said. Okay,
second
I have
that.
I have a
Doug's
motion
got it.
and a second, and you already wrote it down.
got it.
Sue's got it, I'm
Sue
sure.
got it.
Sue's
There you
great. She's great. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Wayne, thank you.
Wayne, I mean,
Do we want to take Wayne out of order on his other request while he's here?
What's his other request?
Yeah, why don't we,
The waiver?
Yeah, Wayne, you just did the waiver for the,
The waiver request? Yes. We had a case that was very close to the maximum amount of funding that we can spend on a unit, which is $40,000. We were under that limit until the final invoice came in for the lead paint clearance testing, and it pushed us $99 over that $40,000 cap. So we need to request a waiver from DHCD of that $40,000 limit. That typically starts with your approval at this level before we forward the request to DHCD. So it would be to approve the waiver for $40,099 for this
moved.
housing rehab case.
sorry.
okay.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thanks,
Thank
Wayne.
you for taking that out of order. I appreciate it.
Yep. Okay, so we're just going to go back briefly.
Minutes?
You're all set, Wayne? Okay. All right. We're going to go back to the minutes. So, open session minutes of January 7th, 2020.
Make a motion to approve the open session minutes of January 7, 2020.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I have to abstain from that, right?
Yes, if you weren't here. Yep. All those in favor? And one abstention. Okay. Next on the agenda, old business, FY21 budget. Doug.
Thank you. Not too much to update you on. We're still obviously waiting for the governor's budget to come out, which will be very soon, so we're anxiously awaiting those numbers. Since our last meeting, Biz and I have been meeting with each department to go over their submitted budget. As we talked about when we initially submitted it to you, it hadn't been reviewed at all. So we're giving each department their own private meeting where we're going through line by line. Some departments is very straightforward, others where there's bigger needs or bigger requests, that's taking a little bit more time. At the same time we're doing that, the Finance Committee also has liaisons. They're reaching out to department heads, so department heads have additional meetings with those liaisons. And then in addition to that, the Capital Planning Committee is also having some department heads that are requesting capital come in and present them, and there's also liaison meetings with that. So there's a lot of activity going on, it's all good. So really, at the next Selectmen's meeting, we should have some more information for you with some updates.
Okay.
Thanks,
All
Joe.
right. Thank you, Doug. Any other old business not reasonably anticipated?
Not
Okay.
for me.
Moving on even further. Open warrant for annual town meeting. Mr. Webb.
Yeah, so this, another example of something that's a little different than in my prior work, but I know the custom, and it's more formal here to officially open the warrant. So Sue took the time to update all the dates and check with the town clerk, so you have in your packet the election and town meeting schedule. So I just ask that you vote to open the warrant.
So moved.
Second that.
I have a motion in 2 seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, Southfield Redevelopment Authority Advisory Board appointments.
Yes, so I attended one of the interviews for one of the master developers up in Weymouth recently, and one of the members of the Redevelopment Authority Advisory Board, and for those in the public that are listening, this relates to Union Point, and it's not the Redevelopment Authority which has, authority there and control. There's an advisory board, which in my simple way of looking at it, it's like akin to a finance committee, provides input and advice. The person from that committee, when they learned who I was, approached me and urged me to help get Rockland representatives on the advisory board, because we currently don't have any. We need to have 2, and because of that, they weren't able to have a quorum and weren't able to hold any meetings. So we did advertise it. No one from the public did express any interest. So I went to the financial department heads, and I'm very pleased and happy that tax collector Judy Hartigan and treasurer John Ellard have both volunteered to give it a try and to fill that role. So I'm very appreciative of both of them.
Very good.
So what I would ask would be, if you're comfortable with that, to have you appoint those 2 as the town's representatives, and then maybe just as an alternate, in case something unexpected comes up, have town accountant Biz be the alternate, the backup.
Okay. Any discussion, Biz?
So the only question I have on that, and I don't know what the bylaws are on that, would Biz be able to go as an alternate because she doesn't live in town?
Yeah.
Before that, we had a
Yeah, because we had
non-resident.
Eric.
So
Eric
that's fine.
Haas was on that.
We can take that
Was
off
Eric
then.
on
Yeah,
that
he
role?
was
Okay.
he was on
Okay.
that same committee.
And I should have, I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, because my initial thought was to have someone from our finance committee be on it. And so the
that's
finance
what we
committee
had in the-
did bring it up, and it's in the charter that there's a whole thing about having to go to town meeting, and that's actually something I think we should talk about with the charter review committee, because in an instance like this, it would make perfect sense to have someone from the finance committee be on that other board as well, but, that's not meant to be, so.
Okay. So,
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I have a motion.
To appoint Judy Hartigan and John Ellard to the advisory board, and have Elizabeth as a backup.
Second.
I have a motion, and again, 2 seconds. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, department head updates. Fire Chief Scott Duffy. There's always one, right? Good evening, Scott.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, good. Thank you for having me give a brief report on the fire department.
So Scott, as a, just to preface this, you know, I had mentioned to John just prior to the meeting, obviously there's been a lot of speculation as to things that go on in town over the last couple of years especially, and we thought about doing something like this just for the residents to see, you know, who their representatives are, you know, who the department heads are, and just get an overview as to what's going on, because we all know they only hear the negative. So
Sure.
it's just an opportunity to present your department, how you want to present it.
Oh, excellent. And it's all positive. Everything with the fire department is positive, which is great. You can't ask for a better department. Speaking with fellow chiefs at meetings, I find myself, and I consider myself extremely fortunate. I don't have the headaches, I don't have the problems that they are going through, so knock on wood, we'll keep it that way. So you should be definitely a department to be proud of. So I'll just give you a brief rundown of the department. Currently, we're funded at 30 personnel for the department. That includes chief, deputy, a fire prevention lieutenant, and an executive assistant. That's kind of the administrative staff of the department. And then the operational staff is 24 operational at this time. Includes 2 captains, 2 lieutenants, who are the shift commanders. The department's broken up into 4 shifts, and each shift has 20 firefighters. Currently, we have, of those 24, 3 are EMTs and 21 are paramedics. So we are operating at the highest level, medical-wise and ambulance-wise, emergency medical services that we can be. We're still working on hiring too. It's been very difficult to hire recently. There's a shortage of paramedics within the state and on the state civil service list, so we're a little handcuffed with that. But really, that's the only negative, and if that's the only negative, I'll take it for now. Average age of the department's 41 years, so we have mature, experienced firefighters, and the average time on the department's 13 years. So we're seeing where we're getting firefighters on a little bit later in life. And I consider that a good thing. Brings with maturity and some balance and stability. Just at a brief glance, we are one of the busiest fire departments in Plymouth County, and I would say in this general area, including Norfolk County. 2019 closed out, we did almost 3,300 calls. It's a little bit down from 2018, but that's due to, we had a very mild winter this year, thank God, in 2019. Of those 3,300 calls, 47 fires, 21 structure fires, most of those cooking related, 2,464 EMS runs. That's 73% of our calls is medical. We're running 2 ambulances, and it's working out very well for the town. We still even running two medicals. 50 incidents over the course of 2019. We did bring in other towns for assistance, whether for the ambulance or for fire trucks and ladders. And over that, we only went out mutual aid twice over 2019, which that's a really small number.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it seems small to me when I ran the numbers, but it just, everybody's running multiple ambulances now in trying to, not live off the backs of the other towns. Fire inspections, permits, we issued 456 permits and multitude of inspections. Each permit comes with an inspection and probably 2 or 3 for some of them. So the fire prevention is really, that's our #1 job after, life safety and EMS is to prevent fires. So the fire prevention, the deputy and the fire prevention officer that we have, the yeoman's work, they are extremely busy and they do a great job. They know the codes inside and out. And again, part of the department to be proud of because they do keep us safe. 21 structure fires might seem a lot for a year, but that is way, way down compared to where we were in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, where it was, 1 or 2 a week.
Is that higher than what it's been the last couple of years?
No, I would say that's about an average.
About average?
Yes, sir. Our ambulance, again, 2,464 EMS runs. That includes motor vehicle accidents. Transports, we range right in the 1,800 transports to local hospitals. Of that, so we bill for our ambulance. We have a billing fee company. Our revenue for 2019 collected was just 1.08 million. So we broke that million mark with the ambulance fees. So the services do bring money back into town. Obviously not why we do it, but it is a plus. Grants, we continue to apply for grants every year. Any grant that comes across, we're trying to get. We were just awarded gear washer for our firefighter clothing. So we just did receive a grant from the state, and we're hopefully looking to get an additional grant for that as well. Last year, through the Assistance Firefighters Grant, it's a FEMA grant, very highly competitive. We were able to replace all our Jaws of Life tools, spreaders, cutters, rams, anything that we'd use in a major car accident or a collapse of a building where people are trapped and you need heavy tools to lift. We're able to replace all that equipment with 2 sets of battery-operated, high technology, the best there is out there. So that is, that is one thing that we strive to do, is to supplement with grants. Apparatus-wise, we're busy, so it does get beat on. Ambulances, we're in good shape with the ambulances right now. We have 3, so we're running 2, have a backup of 1, which is first time ever, which is great. The engines are getting tired. We have a 2011, which we're still paying for. We have one last payment on that engine, and that's constantly in and out of service. Just has a lot of runs on it. Then we have a 2005 and a 1992 that we bought off of Hanover used, which is a reserve piece, which is good. So we have to start thinking long-term in how we're going to replace some of that stuff. The ladder was just refurbished, kind of a big, long project, kind of a headache of a project, but the truck came out beautiful, and hopefully we'll get another 10 to 12 years out of that vehicle.
How did it survive the crash?
It survived. It was okay. There was no structural damage. The ladder didn't get hit. We had it tested twice for the structural stability of the ladder. All it was a front bumper got creased by a pole, so it was a pretty low-speed incident. So, yeah, that's just one of those things you just can't believe.
You can't make it up.
You can't. Admin vehicles, we're a little, we're starting to get a little low on admin vehicles. Myself and the deputy chief, our vehicles are all right. It's the 2 next. It's the car that the firefighters use to run errands, to pick up lunch, to pick up dinner, to go on some inspections, or to go and do something with the fire alarm system. That's the everyday errand car. That is my old 2005 Crown Victoria. That transmission's going, and it's in dire need of replacement. And then the other vehicle, which is the daytime fire prevention officer, that's an 04 Tahoe that we purchased off of Hingham. Instead of them trading in, we purchased off that a few years ago. And that, again, that's getting some mileage. So that's, again, some long-term thinking. The fire station's old. We're working on it, I'm happy to say. So that'll be a bright spot to look forward to in a couple of years. So again, what makes the department of the personnel. There's 28 of us up there, and I can't be more proud of every single person in that department.
Any questions, any comments?
I have one.
Larry?
You said that you collected over $1 million in the ambulance fees?
Correct.
What do you use that money for in the fire department?
So the ambulance fee money goes back to the town, to the general fund, which, all a roundabout way, it does come back to the department through salaries and in just the general budget. Everything comes out of one bucket of money, it goes back into one bucket of money. I have ideas. I would love to see, to take a small percentage of that money and create a capital plan for the fire department. I wouldn't, just by doing that, 20% of those funds, I wouldn't have to come back to town meeting for an engine, for firefighter gear, for cardiac monitors. We'd be able to create a capital plan within the department to fund all that. But again, that's not a correct request, it's just an idea, and I think right now the system works.
Thank you.
So I got a question in regards to the fire gear.
Yes.
How are we right now? I know that
So
we've
currently
had some struggles, but
We have had some struggles, but, again, I really can't complain. In my 10 years, the support for the department has been great. So we did receive $90,000 at last town meeting to purchase gear. That gear we've all been fitted, it's been purchased, it'll come in. When we do get that in, every firefighter will have 2 sets of gear, which is exactly, that's the standard now. So if you do go to a fire, you do go to a motor vehicle accident where you get some type of blood or bodily fluid on you or something, you can throw your gear into the washer and have a dry set ready to go. So you don't have to come out of service, you don't have to worry about, geez, whose gear is gonna fit me, that's, may not come back. And so with the gear, we are good.
okay, good.
And what's the life expectancy of the gear? I mean, I think we talked, was it 5 years? Every
So,
5
so the
years?
gear has a life expectancy of 10 years.
10 years, okay.
You could get a brand-new set of gear, put it on the shelf, keep it in a cabinet, not even take it out of the plastic.
Mhm.
Over those 10 years, the fibers break down that they treat them with.
Sure.
So they say every 10 years. So every 5 years, we replace a
them all.
set.
Replace a set.
Correct.
Absolutely. Any questions?
I don't have anything.
Comments?
Thank you, Chief.
Any comments?
No.
Thank you for all you do.
No,
Thanks, Chief.
thank you very
Yeah,
much.
Scott, I want to thank you. I mean, we mentioned it, and we mentioned about your department too, John, last week. I think every one of us in our closing comments acknowledged the job that you guys have done over the last, several months and few years. And just the, it seems like anytime there's something positive mentioned on the news about Rockland, it's coming from your department.
Comes from these two
So,
departments.
we cited leadership, we cited personnel, we cited the amount of training that you guys give your people and the high character you guys hold them all to.
Yeah,
So
no, thank you.
we appreciate it.
Yeah,
We
thank you
appreciate the
very
work you
much.
guys do. Continue to
you.
make us proud. Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Chief.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda, department head update, Police Chief John Llewellyn.
Welcome back.
Good evening again.
A little different
Thank you
seat
very
for you
much.
this time, huh?
This should only take about an hour or so. Actually, it's been an extremely busy holiday season. Holidays are really tough on us and the fire department. We dread the holiday season because it's a tough time for people that are struggling to begin with, and it makes it even more difficult, the added pressures, societal and everything else, family pressures and those sort of things. So I'm happy to say, hopefully the holiday season is over and we're going to continue to move forward. So personnel issues this past year, we had Sergeant Welch and Officer Jack O'Connor retire, both with well over 30 years' experience in the department. So that was a great loss for the department, but great for them to move on with the second part of their lives now. We were able to hire, which there were some of them here tonight, Officer Sean Malley and Officer Sean Murphy. So we had Sean and Sean in the academy together. And I would be proud to say that Sean Malley graduated #1 in the Plymouth Police Academy class this year. And we just started our Officer Ryan Thoreau 2 weeks ago in the new class down there. So he's still having kind of a rough time down there right now. So civilian, we had Leanne McGinnis, who had worked for me for 18 years for the department. She retired, and her daughter Christine came in and took over some big shoes to fill, and Christine's doing a great job down there with us. So that's working out really well for me. We are currently in the process of hiring 8 new permanent intermittent officers. I had called for a list for 10. We got 25 names. As we whittle it down, we have very high standards here in Rockland. We are now down to 8. Of those 8, we're going to run them through another PT test. I hope we will keep all 8, but as they know, if they haven't been out running and doing the right thing, they will be down to a smaller number than that. So as Scott said, and it's kind of interesting to sit here, on departments our size, for me, it's all about having the right staff, the right peg in the right hole, the round peg in the round hole, square peg in the square hole. I am extremely fortunate, as he is, my administrative staff, my civilian staff, my prosecutor, my firearms licensing, my detectives, they're all the right peg in the right hole. And because of that, my job is relatively easy, because they're all doing an amazing job, not for me, but for the town of Rockland. So I'm extremely fortunate right there. We do spend a lot of time and money to continue training in the current trends in policing. And over the years, things change. Firearms, domestic violence, a lot of things become front and center. In the past couple of years, we really had issues with the opioid epidemic. We've been right out in front of that with the Plymouth County Outreach Group. And just so you know, if somebody in Rockland overdoses tonight, if they survive, they'll be taken to the hospital by the ambulance, Narcan. Tomorrow morning, I'll have a plainclothes police officer, somebody from an outreach program, and what we call a recovery coach, somebody who's been through it, at their door, knocking on their door, with a pamphlet, with somebody from a program, saying, we have a bed for you, we're offering you this right here and now, come with us. No pressure, no uniforms, no nothing. The success rate right now is knocking on 70%. Our overdose death rates have declined dramatically. I hate to even come out, I don't have the numbers in front of me exactly, but they have dropped dramatically in the last couple of years. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is we have actually started to see methamphetamine in the town of Rockland. That I have dreaded my entire career. Heroin, fentanyl, extremely dangerous drugs, less aggressive people that are stuck on those drugs. Methamphetamine is a whole new character, a whole new issue, whatever. So we are training up in that as quickly as we can, getting our offices ready and to be prepared for that as well. Another big thing we're dealing with right now is emotionally challenged individuals. How are we dealing with those? Because on that same spectrum of overdoses, we're realizing that we can provide those same services to the emotionally challenged community. So we're actually ramping up a lot of programs for them as well, trying to get them into some services. So, you know, training, that's how we try to stay ahead of all of this. I continue to send all of our sergeants, our senior staff, to leadership schools, most of them put on by the FBI. Lieutenant Zioli and Sergeant Coakley both came back from the Cape tonight. They're down there for a week-long school in leadership development put on by the FBI. So the deputy chief is constantly attending schools. It's a very expensive process, but it's how we stay out in front of and keep our staff and everybody else, you know, in line and up to date. So that's working out really well. Unfortunately, the grants aren't what it used to be. I'll be honest with you, I'm not afraid to say it. The Obama administration was not good for policing in America. We are now starting to see that the feds are looking to do the cops grants again, which means we actually hired people 12, 14 years ago, 15 years ago on cops-funded grants.
Right.
Those programs are being reinstituted as we speak. We're looking into that to see if we can get some police officers out of that. State grants are still there. We do a lot of click it a ticket, a lot of those things around the holiday seasons for alcohol impaired driving, that kind of stuff. So we do get all of the local grants that we can, and the good news is hopefully there'll be future federal money as well. Our vehicle fleet is the best it's ever been, and I appreciate the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, Town Administrator. We've talked about this, working with me to get us 2 cars a year. We're finally at a point where the average miles on our vehicles are well less than 100,000. We were way over 100,000 for a long time, and we're actually working with the town to, you know, reuse some of the older vehicles. We've gone to emergency management. They've been getting a couple vehicles a year. Schools, we've been giving the schools a vehicle as well. So. One thing I'm really excited about is we recently began a program with Detective Casper, who was here tonight, of doing a pictorial history of the Rockland Police Department. What I realized is that when I took over, we really had no footing, no idea who was who back all the way into the 1800s, who ran the police department, who was the first chief and all of that. So we now have done a pictorial history, which is on the walls and the main hallway in the police station, from the late 1800s up to, we're about the 1960s now, early 70s. We're almost getting into the color photographs now. So we've been taking a lot of time to do it right and make sure that not only do we have that, we have the first warrant for town meeting for the budget for the police department was about $98, something like that. We have that on the wall. Yeah. So we're going to continue that, and I'm hoping to have an open house in the fall where we can actually show that off. The building, other than the roof, is in really good shape. We do spend a lot of money, as I'm sure Biz has seen over the years. At the end of the year, we do floors, we paint, we spend money keeping the building where it needs to be, replacing rugs, those sort of things. So the interior of the building is in good shape. We're going to continue to keep it that way. We may be needing a roof at some point. We're going to be talking to finance and capital planning about that. But Larry, I appreciate your softball question to Chief Duffy. I was hoping I might get one about the retail and the medical marijuana monies that are going to be coming into town, because that's going to affect my department probably the most,
You
so.
like that one, huh?
Yeah,
You gotta know how to slide them in, John, you know?
I know you do. We're in great shape otherwise.
No, once medical marijuana places get underway and we start collecting money, and we see how much money we have, I think that money can be earmarked for whatever we choose rather than just into the general fund, I'm pretty sure, so.
And that's my understanding as well, and I'll be honest with you, I'm usually fall right in line with the 70-30 split, where my department fits in and everything else, but I think that this is going to impact the police department more than any other department in town. Clearly, the fire department is going to get busier with more people coming and going as well, but we need to get into the schools with education for the kids, because there are slated to be 3 medical and retail marijuana facilities in the town of Rockland.
Right.
We've been notified that on Airport Park Drive, they've been approved for their 3 licenses. They will be opening this summer.
So, John, I think it's always been the appetite of this board that some of that funding would be put towards policing, education, training,
Traffic
public health,
control,
everything.
public
So
Second
I think
community
that's
police
something
officer.
that we've
Yeah.
always discussed, and we've always felt, I think,
Yeah.
pretty strongly that that's where some of that money should be going.
And I've worked with Dr. Cron on the second school resource officer. We need a school resource officer in the elementary grades, especially if we have a large presence of marijuana in town. We want somebody in there talking to the kids about these issues.
Get them
and,
young, absolutely.
being right up front about it. And I know that with the school being built, they're going to have an office in there for a second SRO. It's a few years down the road, but I think we need to think about these things as we talk about the money coming in from the marijuana.
Absolutely.
Any adult product, whether it be alcohol, tobacco, or marijuana, should be policed in the family home and put where, the kids really can't get at it. I think that, part of the issue becomes the people who have it in the home are, too liberal around their children, I guess. I don't know how to say it, but.
And listen, I get it. It's legal. It is what it is. I get it. But we want the kids to know, if the parents aren't being responsible with it and putting it away, what they should be doing around it and not doing around
Right.
it. So,
No, it's a good thing. I think more training, the better.
right.
So, and coupling with that, I said policing, but I think I meant more along the lines of emergency response, the first responders. I imagine that the fire department would be impacted by this as well.
Sure.
So
course.
obviously those are things that we keep in consideration when that money does at some point become available.
Of course, I agree.
So,
I didn't want to get off the
Absolutely.
marijuana subject.
Yeah.
This is really more for both chiefs. I just
Yeah.
wanted to give a couple of my observations, because I've met a lot of chiefs over the years, and what I really appreciate about both of these guys is they don't have huge egos. You guys have probably met chiefs as well who, there's a lot of brass on the collar and they'll puff out, but both of these guys have been great to work with, great to me. They've been super responsive, sort of walking softly, carrying a big stick, And to piggyback on some of the other comments as well, both departments work really well together. And it seems obvious, but it's not like that in every town, and I can say that for a fact. And then within the departments, just like they said, not having dissension within their staff is enormous. And for the people at home, they might think, well, of course, it should always be like that. And it should always be like that, but it just isn't in all
Personalities, yeah.
departments. And also the relations with the unions. There's excellent relations with the unions here. So it really is outstanding, and I appreciate what both of these guys do, and I just want to say that out loud.
Yeah, I think, that was going to be something I was going to say. I mentioned, everything to Scott, and that pertained to your department as well, but I think the thing that impresses me the most is how well you guys get along, and how you guys, if you have a disagreement, none of us or any of the residents in the town would ever know it.
No, and I
that's-
think
Yep.
and to that point, like anyone who has been around a town for more than 10 years, understands the history of
Sure.
the relationship there and really what it wasn't, and what we have now is, I don't want to sound hokey, but it's special. I mean, it's really special.
You usually do, and you will again.
But that's I think that's what we all strive for, and you guys have been perfect role models and examples for, I think, the other departments in the town. And I'm sure Doug has used you guys anytime he's got something where other departments aren't getting along. Look to the blue and the red, how well you guys get along, and whatever issues you guys have, it stays in house, and that's it. And that's something that makes our job a heck of a lot easier. So we appreciate that from both of you guys. Anybody else, any comments for John?
No,
Nope.
ditto, Mike.
I think you do a great job,
Summed it up
both
well.
departments.
Just in closing, as you know, I've been chief for like a long time.
Yeah,
A lot of town administrators have come and gone in that time, and I can say truthfully.
You've come and gone to that too.
I have.
Yeah, see, I'm waiting for this. 'cause You're gonna say
I didn't-
outside of
I
one
didn't put
month, right?
myself
Outside
there.
of 1 month, we're, lights out, rock star.
That Doug has been great to work with, and I just want to say that you guys did an amazing job finding, hiring, and keeping him, and I hope that he stays a really long time, because he's not only good for the town, he's good for all the departments. The people that work for me now know that if something did come along, and we had to have a disciplinary issue or something like that, that they would get a fair shake. So, and that in and of itself is huge, because it solves a lot of problems before we had to come up with something like that. And you all know, in years past, that wasn't the case, and it's just, right, so it's working,
Objectiveness, yeah.
and I just want to say thank you to Doug as well, because we're lucky to have him. So, thank you.
Thanks,
John,
Chief.
thank you so
Thank
much.
you, John.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was gonna say next on the agenda, town
I know.
administrator's performance review, and
That was great timing.
Yeah, perfect timing.
Right on cue. There's one more thing before, I think.
It's like he saw the agenda before.
Speak to my agent over there.
The softball
Yeah, that he
logs
gets-
keep coming.
What's he getting, 3%? Is that? All right, town hall summer hours vis-a-vis Saturday, July 4th holiday.
Right, so I just
So we're
wanted to-
open, right? Because according to Kara, I'm the Grinch, and
He is.
I don't close for holidays, so.
Open Saturday, July 4th, absolutely.
I won't call you the Grinch, no, I'm right there with you. But I wanted to make sure, we're all on the same page about the summer schedule. As you all know, town hall's open late, the first and third Tuesday of the month, for a number of months, and then we're offsetting hours, we're closed on Fridays in July and August, so that's fine. However, I put in your packet a calendar where I circled the Fridays off in red, because the issue is, and the reason why I'm bringing this up now is several departments are, working through calendars for the whole year, so it's important for them to have things straight. The 4th of July this year, which is a holiday, is on Saturday. So we're just trying to figure out what the most reasonable thing to do with that is. So what I am proposing that I put in your packet is all the Fridays in July would be closed. All the Fridays in August would be closed, as well as the first Friday in September, because that gets to the 10 Fridays that's required for the offsetting hours. And we'd handle the Saturday, 4th of July by being closed the following Monday, the 6th. And my logic with that was just to keep it as close to the holiday as possible. I feel like that's always the most reasonable thing.
Yep.
Seemed like common sense. I just want to make sure you guys were on board before we codified the calendar.
Yep, makes sense.
Does it need a vote, or are you good?
I don't think so.
No,
It's up to you guys.
Nope, yeah, no, that
Okay.
makes sense.
Great.
On board?
I am on board, Karen.
Oh.
Yeah.
New Year's Eve wasn't the same.
No, it's an important day, but not a holiday. All right, next
When
on
you get
the,
older like Mike, New Year's Eve isn't a big day.
it is not a big thing.
Must be a millennial thing.
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
not a millennial, yeah. Next on the agenda, town administrator's performance review process.
All right, thank you. So this is certainly like a very awkward thing to have to do to comply with the open meeting law, but we want to make sure we get it right. So what's in your packet is a memo that I asked Town Council John Clifford to prepare, just to make sure that we're doing everything properly. So I won't go through and read the whole thing. I'm sure you've had a chance to look at it. But I thought I'd just hit a couple of the highlights. So the first is that, my performance review has to be done in public as part of the open meeting law, in open session. But we also did include language in my contract to help make sure we're on the same page, that we would mutually work on goals and performance objectives, which we've already done, that I put a priority ranking among those, which we've already done, and that we'd put it in writing for your approval, which we've already done. So we've laid the groundwork for this, and in the contract it also talked about how my review would be done at the 6-month mark now, which is early, but again, a lot of this is because of the requirements in the charter that I was only able to get a 1-year probationary term contract. So what John lays out in this memo, and the purpose of having this on the agenda tonight, is for you to vote in open session to talk about the process. So that's the main purpose of this. And if you look through this, what we're doing is we have a performance review tool, and the example that's in your packet was from the town of Foxborough, which is, from talking to John Clifford, seemed like just a very good model. So we left it with Foxborough in case you guys wanted to change anything or had a different one that you liked better. I'm fine with it. We can talk about if you have any, any changes to the tool. The plan would be I'd do a self-assessment of myself, and then the key part is each of you would do it independently on your own. You'd review me on your own. Then we'd meet independently, one-on-one. You give me your honest feedback. We talk about my performance. So that's all done one-on-one, not in a public meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Then you each, after we do that, you each send your review of me to John Clifford, who would be the sort of independent third party who would assemble like a consensus review. And I use the word consensus because part of what John talked to me about is it's not like a strict average like you would have with math, because sometimes you might get one wacky person where everybody thinks it's, I'll make it up, a 5, and one person, just because of a grudge or something, they just put 0. Well, that's kind of like an outlier, so it's a consensus is just what it implies, a consensus. So that all goes back to town council. He would then compile that sort of consensus review, and then it's that sort of summary consensus review that's discussed at a public meeting where you would then do the performance evaluation of me then. So that's the general process. Then it's, once that review is done, contract negotiations can be done in executive session. But this would be the process for the performance review to make sure we're in compliance with open meeting law. So I know it seems pretty cumbersome. I'm not exactly sure you've done it in the past. This may be similar, may be different, but this is really the right way to do it.
I think this is what we've always wanted to do. So, one of the things that you and I have already talked about is kind of the timeline from where we'll go from here. So I'm hoping that, I'd say maybe tomorrow or Thursday, Doug, if you can ask John Clifford to send out blank copies of that Foxborough review to each of the members of the board. If you could also, maybe if you forward the completed goals and objectives to John and have him include it all in one packet. And then if that goes to each one of us, I would say try to get it done over the next couple weeks or so. And then my goal would be that prior to our February 18th meeting, that everybody would have completed the review and met with Doug to go over the review. And I would say February, what do you think, February 11th, if everybody could make that the drop dead date to get the review back to John Clifford so that he can assemble the final copy.
So that means we all have to meet with Doug before the 11th.
Before the 11th.
Okay.
Everybody meet with Doug before the 11th. Now, I don't think it's something that we need to write a schedule as a board. I think everybody has their own work schedule and stuff like that. So when it's convenient to you, it's convenient to Doug, just make it happen, but let's try to make sure that we got it done before February 11th. Obviously, I think it's one of those things that we as well go into it with our own thoughts. So I'd suggest that we not talk about our thoughts on the review. I want it to be as open and honest as possible. And if we go into it without having discussed it and we all have the same opinion, then that's great. We must be right. So I think we go that route. So if you can have John send out an email sometime in the next few days, let's say by Thursday anyway, just in case he's in court or something like that.
Sure.
And maybe if he titles it as a TA search process, we don't know what he's talking about. Right?
Yeah,
like his last email.
Yeah, that gave me
Doug thought he was getting fired because they sent out an email, TA search process.
Yeah. That got my heart going.
Yeah.
Can I add one more thing if
Yep.
I can? So in the template we have for the review tool, excuse me, you'll see it includes for prior year accomplishments, it provides room for like 6. And then for objectives for the coming year, it includes room for like 4, which I think is fine. That's a reasonable thing. The goals and objectives that we worked on jointly, it's long. It was like 11 pages, single-space typed. I think when I counted up, there's like 42 things or something. So I think it's actually good that we kind of narrow in on just like the top 3-4 things.
It was a little wordy.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was helpful for me to make
Yeah.
sure I have my priorities straight. But I just wanted to highlight that I do think it's good that we have a fewer number in the going forward. But that works for me. So I will take care of that. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good.
Just
Anybody
one
further questions? Yep.
Mike. On the number 5 in the evaluation part, the professional development plan, I understand that as to be individual recommendations on what additional professional development you need, Doug, or?
Which, are you talking about my goals, my
No,
document?
no,
or
in the, like in the Foxborough
Oh,
evaluation.
okay, yep,
On page 7,
yep.
there's a professional development plan.
Mm-hmm.
Does this mean you want feedback from each of us about what we think should be your professional development? I think that's, it might be a little overkill, that's all I'm
Well,
saying.
it might be, but if it's something that, during the course of our conversations, that we know that there's programs out there, I mean, Mike, you and Kara have, some great MMA connections. If you know of something that you think might benefit Doug in his position in the town, by all means, suggest it. And if you don't, leave it blank. Just say he's where he needs to be. Okay?
For
think
example, one thing for that might be, Mike, I was exploring the possibility of serving on a committee in the MMMA, like a statewide thing, and I'm not sure I'm going to do it, but like that kind of thing, like if you think it would be good to represent the town in a statewide thing, that would be good feedback. Conversely, some boards don't like that. They're like, stay in your office and work. I don't want you going to meetings in Boston, and, not to belittle it, but different boards have different opinions, so
Understood.
that kind of input was certainly helpful.
I think that Rockland can use all the public PR, if you will, and that we can get. And that our people have always been quiet and shy, if you will, not go to these things and meet all the different people. We found that working with the state brought us an awful lot of grant money in the last few years, and we need to keep that up. And by sending our people to these funded things or whatever, the state things, and meet the people. And, Rockland's name is getting better out there, believe it or not. And from what we hear, and more PR is only going to make us better. I think that we got to publicly stand up and, forget about defending ourselves, just tout ourselves as being a town where people want to come to because we've improved our schools, we've done this, we've raised Rockland out of, the old days, if you will, And these guys can tell you, at least John can tell you about I had a couple of boys wanted to have a 50-year reunion of the wall. From the day the state police had to come and clean the place out, And that's 50 years ago, and 50 years is a long time, and the town of Rockland has really changed dramatically in those 50 years, and so much for the better. And we got a really organized town now, and everybody's working together, and it's a good thing. And I think that this whole board and the people that are in charge of all the different elected officials and stuff are doing a really fine job, and we can be proud as a town. We can be. That's it.
Anybody else? Nope. Okay, so we have to vote on the process.
Yes.
So I'll entertain a motion for the town administrator's performance review process as was stated.
As stated, I'll make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion, and again, 2 seconds. All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, MSBA required signature authorization if needed.
So the paperwork is still flying. We got another packet of paper from the state MSBA to execute. And you'll see in your packet that they would like another vote from the board authorizing the chairman to sign the executed PFA, project funding agreement. And you'll see in the packet also, I went back and forth with the MSBA asking if my previous documentation would suffice for this, and they went back and forth, and that's why I put on the agenda if needed, because I wasn't sure if we'd need this or not. And they did come back and say, yes, we did need it because the earlier vote was specific to an earlier document. So you'll see in the document I gave you tonight, if you want to vote it, it's to authorize Mike to execute and deliver the project funding agreement, blah, blah, blah. And then I put in, and any other future documents required by the MSBA for the elementary school building project, because I don't know all the other names of the documents that might come up.
There'll be more.
Yeah, so hopefully this one will suffice for in the future. If not, we'll just keep coming back and doing this. But this is just to enable Mike to sign on behalf of the board. And it's a formal document. After you vote this, later I'll sign this, I'll have the town clerk stamp it, and then I'll send it up with the documents.
So moved.
Second.
Right.
Motion is second. All those in favor? And I'm going to abstain.
You don't have to.
Yeah, it's just weird voting for yourself.
Don't be shy.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, kind of like it.
Of all your mother's children, you loved yourself the best, right?
She'll attest to that. Next on the agenda, other new business not reasonably anticipated. Nothing, okay. Town administrators report and correspondence.
Thank you. Just a few things tonight. And again, it's sort of a random order. It's just sort of as it comes into my head. This first one I thought you might find interesting. So, we did get some feedback. We've talked about this before about sort of public, how we promote town meetings and elections. So I was talking to the town clerk, and we agreed to give something a try, which we used in the last town I was in, where the town clerk there had these sort of portable, old-fashioned, call it a sandwich board, for lack of a better thing, where you can kind of slide in letters and put in whatever message you want to put. So we bought 3 of those, where we can put, annual town meeting, Monday, May 4th, 2020, and at a couple strategic intersections, put them in the traffic islands, chain them to a street sign. Same thing for elections. We'll make sure it doesn't obstruct any traffic views or any turning.
Heavy-duty chain and a lock.
Yeah.
There you go.
But it actually, not everybody might be driving by the sign in front of Town Hall, so, Donna has the idea for a couple good intersections. So just giving you a heads up, we're going to give it a try. It's a low-cost way that might, improve some communications. Next thing I wanted to mention is just a good shout out to some staff in the Board of Health office. A resident actually went to the Board of Health where they were trying to get some information about what they could dispose at the recycling center. It was an older person. Turns out the staff explained that they weren't actually able to dispose of what they had the way that they were trying to do it. So just on their own, later on, the staff in the office, Janine Oliver and her husband, went to that older person's home on their own time, picked it up, took care of it, never asked any. She'll be mad that I'm even saying this out loud, and, didn't ask for any acknowledgement. But I just want to give them my appreciation, and that's called good customer service, and I think they appreciated it. Similarly, with good customer service, our library director, Beverly Brown, is going to be retiring. She's been working for the town for a long time, over 30 years. I don't have an exact end date. I think it's going to be somewhere mid to late April will be her last time working. So I'm sure there'll be more to come, but I just wanted to acknowledge her many decades of service to the town. I also wanted to mention a new program that our veterans agent, Vinny, explained to me the other day. It's a new program he's rolling out called Veteran to Veteran, and it's for, sometimes they refer to shut-ins, so maybe an older veteran or I guess any age veteran who might be just kind of shut in their home and not engaging with other people, not communicating with other people. So based on input Vinny's received from others, he's establishing a program where other veterans can get connected and do outreach, and kind of through the outreach coordinator at the senior center are going to be one-on-one meeting with these vets in their homes, which I just think is a fantastic program. So he's going to be rolling that out. I won't go through and read all the numbers. There are some trash fees that are going up to the public, and that's been pushed out widely in Facebook and Twitter and other means. I know there's been some comments from the public with people expressing concerns. The main thing I just wanted to explain is that it's not unique to Rockland. It's happening throughout all of eastern Massachusetts, and it has to do with where the trash ultimately goes. Regardless of who's picking it up, it all has to go somewhere, in those disposal sites. All these older arrangements and contracts that all the towns signed up for years and years ago, they're all expiring. Costs are going up across the board for everyone. So we appreciate the public's patience while the fees are going up. 2 more quick ones. Speaking of trash, we're actually going to be cleaning up here at Town Hall. You're going to see a large dumpster outside of here in about a week. And that's why you're seeing some things in the hallways. I wanted to explain that as well. But we're cleaning house. We're getting rid of a lot of old junk and tidying up. So I think everybody's excited about that. And then lastly, I should have organized this better with the previous thing. We were talking about the MSBA vote. I'm working with the architect and the OPM for the school building project to try to help coordinate the permitting, because there's quite a bit of permitting that's going to need to be done, potential variance with the ZBA, conservation issues, et cetera. And I'm highlighting this mainly not to complain, but just to sort of highlight an example of where, when we're more thinly staffed, kind of how it affects real operations. So, this is a complicated project. It's an $86 million construction project touching on planning board, zoning board, conservation, and we don't have any permanent full-time staff in this building that can help coordinate that. In any other town, I shouldn't say in any other town, in most other towns, there are staff. So I'm going to be assembling a meeting, I'm going to pull together some people, and we're going to do our very best to make sure this, we don't miss a beat. But I just wanted to highlight that as an example of just, something that I'm looking at in future budgets, and affordable ways that we can chip away at that to make our services more efficient and effective. That's all I have tonight.
For both the residents and business owners. 'Cause
Yes.
It's
For
a
both.
challenge.
Mhm.
Yeah, has been.
Thank you, Doug. Next on the agenda, Selectmen's comments. Comments and opinions expressed by individual members do not necessarily reflect the views of the Board of Selectmen and are the opinions and comments of only the individual member. Mr. Mullin.
I don't have anything tonight, Mr. Chairman.
I don't either. It's up to Rich.
Penny?
I would like to congratulate Caroline Eli from the girls' basketball team, another 1,000-point scorer. I've had an opportunity to watch her play since she was younger, and a tremendous player, and congratulations to her. And I do want to say thank you to Doug. He has, since he's been here, he has been extremely willing not only to take on the duties and the responsibility as the town administrator, but as he echoed with the school building project, he is taking on things that I can tell you in the previous administration never would have been taken on. He's putting his general contractor hat on, zoning, planning, and I'm sure there's things that I'm not even aware of. So I just want to say thank you.
Mr. Ryan.
I just follow that up with his, we have a pro. That's what we have. We have professional administration now who are trained, who knows what they're doing. They're not flying by the seat of their pants, any of them, and we're going to receive the benefit of it. And that's all I get to say. I thank you to Doug, to Biz, to Jen, our two leaders of our two biggest departments down there, that's not counting the schools. We got a great town. Great town, good people, all working for the same thing to make sure the citizens are safe, healthy, and have a good place to live and raise their children. That's all I get to say.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. So, I mean, we just talked about Doug's performance review, and that was an interesting negotiating strategy. Put it all out there now, and thank you. But never really seen it done that way. So, just maybe we can just delete the rest of this tape. Doug, to what they said, I think I said it right from the start, lightning in a bottle, right? And you've done everything that we've asked you to do, and the testimony from both chiefs back there tonight, and every department that's come forward, this should be a pretty painless performance review process for you. So don't get worried about John Clifford's emails, okay? And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I got
I think we want to go. So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I don't know, I'll show you what.
Mr. Mullen?
I'm good.
Ms. Nyman?
Yes.
Mr. Penny?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
And myself. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you very much, everyone.